Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, everyone. This is Final Draft, welcoming you to another podcast of EverFree Radio. This week, we're bringing you a double dose of awesome. First, I drag in Socksy and A-Track from behind the scenes to join me for a review of the mysterious Mare duel. Then Crescendo and I interview Nicole Oliver, esteemed actress of the stage and screen and voice of Celestia and Shirley. Grab a seat, hit that turn signal, lay back or lean forward, and stay tuned. Let's get this podcast started. I'm Final Draft, and I'm here with two new reviewers, Socksy and 8-Track. Say hi, guys.
Hi, this is 8-Track.
Hey.
And tell us just real quick, what have you done for EverFree Radio so far before we've put you behind the mic?
Well, I am the technical director. I am the one that takes the final audio you hear here and chops it up, cuts it up, and makes it sound better, cuts out all of Giraffe's ums, ahs, and other faux pas in the audio.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard those in the podcast at all.
That means I've done my job.
Oh, I see. And Socksy, why don't you tell the audience what it is you've done for us so far?
I read up the posts and all of the stuff that Draft sends out to people to impress them.
So really, the both of you have been major players behind the scenes. I think it's good that we get to hear you in the podcast now. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And today we have an episode to review. We have the mysterious Mare duel, the 8th episode of this season. And overall, I thought that there were many elements to this episode that were worth noting that I think people may or may not have noticed. And I know 8-Track, when you were watching it, you noticed several key references.
Yeah, I did, actually. There were quite a few references in the episode to things external for My Little Pony. First of all, the first thing you see in the episode is in the clubhouse where Scootaloo is, praising Rainbow Dash for being the best pony ever. There is a poster in the rear right of the frame that shows a drawing of Nyan Dash, which is a parody of Nyan Cat, but Rainbow Dash, done with Rainbow Dash.
Also a very, very popular t-shirt.
Yes, it is a very popular t-shirt on We Love Fine. It sells a lot, I'm sure. Also, later in the episode, when you first see Mare Duel, she is dressed in a purple outfit with a purple cape and a purple gigantic flat-brimmed hat.
Now, before you say it, I just want to ask you, what is Rainbow's middle name, apparently, according to this episode?
Oh, yes. Rainbow Danger Dash.
And what happens when things get dangerous? Who gets dangerous?
It's funny you go there because, as we all know, when there's trouble, you call DW, Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous.
It was a blatant reference, despite rumors I've heard to the contrary. I mean, that, like you said, that hat, the colors, it was very much Darkwing Duck, and I was really happy to see it as a fan of the show when I was younger.
All she needed was that gas gun with the grappling hook, and it would have been completely just Darkwing Duck in pony form.
Well, Sockwer, you were mentioning earlier as well, before we started our recording today, that you had some superhero references that you noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that eventually Rainbow Dash started channeling Spider-Man.
Never fear! Your friendly neighborhood Rainbow Dash is here!
By saying the friendly neighborhood Rainbow Dash, or something along those lines.
Your friendly neighborhood Rainbow Dash, I think was the line, yes.
It reminded me a lot of Spider-Man.
Yeah, now it's worth noting that whether or not this is a deliberate nod to Spider-Man or not, Spider-Man was a huge pony-related meme in the very beginning of the whole Brony fandom back mid last year. When the pictures started, there was a picture of J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man in pony form, sitting in his office saying, "I need pictures of ponies." So Spider-Man has been huge in the beginning of the My Little Pony meme generation. So whether it's a deliberate nod to that or not, I don't know. It's always fun to see superhero nods.
Well, I think in the end that there have already been a few very distinct and very noticeable Spider-Man references. Obviously, your friendly neighborhood Rainbow Dash. It's just a direct take from Spider-Man. But earlier on in the season, in the episode featuring Apple Bloom, they mentioned Zeccora's zebra sense, Tinglin. That's a clear nod to Spidey sense. So I think the writers definitely have Spider-Man on the mind one way or another. But they also...
And there is Pinky sense.
There's the Pinky sense, and I think overall, this whole episode was basically about a lot of stereotypes for superheroes. You know, they're saving the baby careening down the hill. You know, there's the bus full of tourists. There's the skyscraper that's going to fall apart. I think in the end, yeah, they were trying to cover all of the superhero bases, and so it's only natural they would use a few superhero references. The one I should mention, though, before we forget, is in the end chase scene where Rainbow Dash is trying to unmask Mare Duell. I heard, and I'm sure a lot of the fans heard, the Batman musical theme as part of the background music, and that made me smile quite a bit. I was happy to hear that.
Yes, it was a very, very good nod. It wasn't the exact theme, but it was a very good nod to the Batman theme. And in addition to that, I don't know if you saw it or not, but at the party prior to that, where they were, thanking Mare Duell, there were ponies who in the background held up the posters of the black, shadowy Mare Duell with a red background behind her head, which is a distinct nod to the Batman poster of the exact same design.
It's actually, it's a nod to the Batman artwork of Batman the Animated Series, the early 90s version that is just genius in this host's opinion, but that's getting a little bit off topic. Well, and I think one thing we really should point out, especially after our little flub in our last episode, was that William Anderson did a great job of working in that Batman theme to the background music of this episode. I repeat, William Anderson, because he is the talented composer of the background music for these episodes, and we want to make sure that we give the right credit where it's due.
Right, and his music this episode was right on par with everything in the past. It was great. It set the tone. The action sequences had some great, music in the background to bring it out.
Oh yeah.
The other sequences there was, perfect work on his part as usual. It really, nothing to say bad on that. I mean,
all in all, I had rain booms exploding inside my head the whole time.
I have expected some pony to yell, "Get to the chopper!" It was fun in that sense, and his music definitely added to that experience. Anyway, yeah, I thought that the references were really a very strong point of this episode. I think another strong point of the episode were the action sequences. One that I mentioned a moment ago was the baby carriage flying down the hill, which I think might actually be a nod to Battleship Potemkin. I'm not sure. But scenes like that, scenes like Mare Duell saving the ponies from the collapsing building, I thought those were really well animated and really well presented.
You also had Rainbow Dash diving down a well in the beginning, which pretty much started the entire thing. She dives down the well to save a filly stuck at the bottom of the well. And when she comes up, she's like, "Oh, what's with this crowd here?" And they all start chanting, "Rainbow Dash, Rainbow Dash." And she gets she gets a huge blush on her face. She's like, "Oh, thank you." And she just soaks up all the attention. That's what starts fanning her ego about being a superhero like that. And she takes it one step further every time. After she saves the filly, after she saves the baby going down the hill, which, by the way, apparently Ponyville has cliffs all around it that we didn't know about before, because there's at least 3 different cliffs throughout the episode that various things start to fly over that we've never seen before.
I think Ponyville might actually be in Rivendell, or it's somewhere in the mountains, because it's there were a lot of very steep hills and a lot of paths that led to cliffs.
Right. They also had the Ponyville Reservoir, which has the Ponyville Hydroelectric Power Station right on it there that we've never seen before, which is a new setting.
But it was pink, and so that was very nice.
And back onto the vein of the Pony Baby.
The Pony Baby.
Oh no! There's something wrong with the baby!
Myself, I found it an interesting design with the eyes. Those eyes.
Yes, the eyes.
Those beady little
the beady
eyes.
little eyes that just look into your soul, and it devours your soul. It sucks your soul into it, and it's just kind of freaky.
Socksy, it's okay. It's not going to devour your soul. It will grow up to be an adorable pony that the fans will misname, and the blind bag toys will provide us proper backgrounds for.
I hope so.
It will happen. It may take them a while, but they'll do it. So don't worry about it.
Speaking of ponies, growing up ponies, did everyone see our favorite wall-eyed pony in the episode?
I didn't notice her until you pointed her out to me, but when I watched the episode again, she was there for that split second when they're panning across the crowd.
I did not.
Well, she's there. She's got a very goofy look on her face, and she's derpy, as usual. I think that the animators are definitely making good use of Derpy this season.
I never find Derpy.
Yeah, she's there in the crowd right when Rainbow Dash saves the the ponies from the old pony retirement home from falling from their balcony there that apparently was shoddily constructed.
I like that they had the pony retirement home in this episode. It was referenced in Luna Eclipse, but I didn't know whether they were actually going to show it at any point, and we got it. We got a balcony full of old ponies. One of them with a cutie mark that was a bubble pipe, which I got a kick out of. So,
and evidently Rainbow Dash is strong enough to carry an entire balcony full of ponies on her back.
I was wondering about that. I saw that. I was like, wow, she can handle an entire balcony of 4, elderly ponies falling on her and lower it to the ground. I was sort of impressed.
It's got to make you wonder about Applejack's strength if Rainbow Dash couldn't halt that carriage falling down the hill.
Well, and the other thing that makes you wonder is, she tried to push Granny Smith across the street, and that took all of her effort. So apparently Granny Smith, despite her rickety rustiness,
she's a bad pony.
She's got some momentum on her side. She's got a lot of inertia that has to be overcome to get her across the street she doesn't want to cross.
A very stubborn mare.
Well, and another background pony that we really should mention, who I don't think has been named yet, was the pony in the park having issues with her peanut butter. And thank goodness Rainbow Dash was there to help her.
Yeah, I actually like that pony a lot. Her voice was a lot better than the other background pony voices that I've heard, like Bon Bon's ever-changing voice. It's a lot higher quality.
It'd be interesting to find out who voiced that character, and in the end, what that character's name was, because we see her cutie mark, which looks like a copy of Rarity's, but yeah, you don't get much more information than that.
I mean, it's where Rarity's is 3 gemstones sideways. Hers is like 3 diamonds in a V formation. So I don't know if she gonna get a name like Diamond Horn or Purple Diamond or who knows.
We could call her maybe Amethyst something.
Amethyst Gem.
There we go. Amethyst Gem. There you go, fans. We've named her for you. EverFree Radio to the rescue again.
That's right.
Well, going back then to the beginning of the episode, there's definitely one element that right away, off the bat, as soon as I saw it, I groaned loudly, was Scootaloo's Rainbow Dash fan club.
Oh, boy.
And, I'm sure that the animators weren't entirely aware of where the fandom was going to go with this when they were animating this, but this is just fodder, endless fodder for more Scoot abuse.
They had Rainbow Dash hair.
They did.
Rainbow Dash hair.
They had wings. They had the Earth ponies that did not have wings. They actually had like
they had fake wings.
You know how you could have the ears you can wear on your head with a headband? They had wing bands. They had wing bands on their back, so they had fake Rainbow Dash wings.
They also had taped on cutie marks. I think in the end it was hilarious. It was funny. I think it's going to be definitely a source of yet more Scootaloo mocking, which is unfortunate because I really like Scootaloo.
Scootaloo is my favorite cutie mark crusader. I'm not afraid to say that because she has the most potential to be as awesome as Rainbow Dash does, in my opinion. She just has to work at it. And plus, have you ever seen another pony do so well on a scooter? She has style on that thing.
Oh, I know. I'm really hoping that we get to see more of that this season. We had Snips and Snails in the episode, which I was happy to see and actually happier to hear. They really did, display the characterization that they had been given in, the episode with Trixie. I think in the end, they're still a little bit obnoxious. I don't know that they're going to gain any more fans from having appeared in this episode and had speaking roles, but, I'm glad that they're, at least the animators, I should say, and the writers are keeping them in there, that they're going to, keep appearing because they're characters. They add to the scene.
And then there was Rainbow Dash hiding outside of the clubhouse. I believe it was her that suggested the new name.
Yeah, it was. And this really does lead well into what I think we should talk about next, which is Rainbow Dash's characterization in this episode and really her progression. I was frustrated because, especially after last week's episode, I like Rainbow Dash, but one of the things I liked about her in the first season was that she still had a sense of humility. In this season, it seems like she knows she's awesome, so she just keeps playing it up and playing it up. She's coming off as too arrogant to me.
Well, I think that's a symptom of one having two Rainbow Dash centered episodes back to back like this with no gap in between them.
That could be.
Normally, you don't have an episode focused on a pony and their either problem with or their expression of their elements twice in a row like this. So it could be the fact that we're having two in a row that's causing the problem, or it could just be the Rainbow Dash really just needs a lesson pounded into her head twice.
Well, and overall, during the episode, and I think this was a real weakness of this episode, she doesn't really get the lesson until the last 30 seconds of the episode, where she just suddenly realizes, oh, I've been too arrogant. I've been too much of a show-off. Most of the episode is her complaining and trying to one-up Mare do well, and that didn't appeal to me. I can understand a bit of ego being a moral lesson for the show, but I felt like part of that was addressed in the previous episode, and yes, maybe, it's because I've seen these two back to back, but I almost felt like she hadn't made any progress since last time. She didn't learn anything from what she had experienced with Tank. And again, this could be a symptom of the animation process. They complete these episodes at different times than they're aired. So it's possible that when the writers were writing this script, that it was before the episode from last week. They aired in a different order than they say were produced. But that being said, I would have liked to have seen Rainbow come to terms with her own arrogance a little bit sooner. It felt like it was drawn out. It also felt like the end resolution was just very, very quick and almost contrived.
Oh, I think that's why her friends ended up getting fessed up with her actions and decided to hammer some knowledge into her, hammer the lesson into her brain.
Well, and I would have really liked to have seen at the end of the episode when Rainbow, realizes, of course, because this was kind of a predictable outcome that Mare do well was all of the other ponies. I would have liked to seen her don the costume and save someone else and not be, hailed as Rainbow Dash, to show that she really had learned that lesson, but that she still could be a hero without the ego. I would have liked to have seen that, and I'm surprised they didn't do it.
Well, I thought Mare do well was Luna. I thought it was an alicorn.
Well, I had my hopes when she was first appearing. I was almost hoping she would be Trixie. I think there were a lot of fans who were speculating. I was hoping she would be Trixie or possibly Luna. But as soon as you see her fixing the dam and the magic is sparkling purple, it's Twilight. So it was very predictable. I thought it was a little too predictable, honestly.
Yeah, another thing about that part of it is that earlier in the episode, they're all in, I guess they're in Sugar Cube Corner there, and they're talking about, Applejack goes, oh, that Mare-do-well, she's so strong, and, Twilight's like, oh, but she's great with magic, too, and did you see her outfit? It looks fabulous, and they're all sitting there, obviously going over the top about it, trying to hint, nudge to Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash is sitting there fuming about it, going, oh, she's not that good, I'm better. It's like, you think she would have taken the hint and gotten, oh, well, maybe they're doing that because I'm being a giant jerk about it. I should be a little more reserved about it. Maybe I should be a little more modest about it and not try and flaunt everything I do in front of every pony, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she learned it all in the last 30 seconds of the episode. She had that one moment. She goes, oh, I guess I was a little bit arrogant. That's not the quote.
And then they go, a little bit arrogant? They all just blow her over with their thing. And she's like, well, okay, maybe a little more than a little bit.
I guess I did start to brag a little. A little? Okay, a lot.
Yeah, and it's all solved right there. I felt that was just too convenient of a wrap up to the episode. I think that this, in a lot of ways, honestly, I'm going to just say it. I think this was probably the weakest written episode I've seen so far of the show. And that's a difficult statement to make. I understand that. But I think it's true because none of the characters were more than two-dimensional in this episode. The conflict was resolved almost because they had run out of time. It felt
rushed.
It felt too contrived. There was no depth to it in this case. It kind of felt rushed. It was very predictable. We kind of knew what was going to happen within the first 5 minutes of the episode. As soon as you see her start reacting to, when she saves the filly and everybody gives her praise, and then you see Mare do well, you already know where the course of the episode is going to go. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of unfortunate because, the better episodes this season so far, you look at Return of Harmony, or you look at Lesson Zero, or you look at Cutie Pox. There was a depth to it. There was an unpredictability to it. You didn't know exactly how it was going to play out. It was still, innocent and, still understandable to a younger audience, but there was that depth. This episode seemed to lack that. I knew exactly what was going to happen within the first 5 minutes of the episode, and that's not really... It just didn't feel up to snuff compared to what they've been doing up to this point.
Now, to play devil's advocate about that a little bit, you have to remember the show is geared towards children primarily, and it's trying to teach a lesson. So in the end, it does teach a lesson that, you're not supposed to show off, you're supposed to be modest, you're supposed to do that. And the best way to show that to children would be to demonstrate it to its fullness of what not to do. So, I mean, Rainbow Dash going all out and being completely unmodest and completely show off is a perfect example to get it through, to get to the children, so the children will recognize, oh, well, maybe she is being a bit of a jerk, and maybe she should tone it back a little bit, because even children can see that she's going way overboard with it.
She's trying too hard.
Exactly, she's trying way too hard to get it done. So perhaps that was something they're going for. I mean, like I said, you have to keep the younger audience in mind. So,
sure.
But I agree, it was very, very predictable. They've made it accessible for younger audiences while still keeping it interesting and keeping it unpredictable in the past. It's just the writing this episode was just not there compared to other episodes.
I think that, I'm willing to admit and willing to agree that, yes, this was supposed to be a clear-cut moral lesson for a younger audience. And, to be fair, I didn't think it was a bad episode. I didn't dislike the episode. I enjoyed watching it. It was, again, my criticism, if any, is just that it was surprisingly predictable compared to what else we've seen this season.
Exactly. It wasn't bad. I mean, even though we are saying that it is the most poorly written episode this season, I still enjoyed it. I still loved watching it. I still would not recommend people don't watch it or anything like that. It's
sure.
still a good episode for My Little Pony. It's not something that's going to turn anyone away. It's not something that people should start, throwing tomatoes at people about, saying boo, bad show, or anything like that. No, it's granted. I mean, they set the bar high with all the previous episodes. So when they don't hit that bar they've already set for themselves, it feels like it's sort of, a sort of a letdown. But in reality, if you compare this to other cartoons, it's still miles ahead of it. So it's still much better.
Oh, by far.
It's just not as good as the bar they previously set for themselves.
Well, and I think, let's be fair to the entire staff that's involved in making the show. When I say this was the weakest written episode, I mean that specifically written. I think the writing was a little bit weak, but in terms of other elements of the show, like the animation, the music, the references, those were all very high quality. I thought it was great what we got to see in this episode that we haven't seen before.
Indeed, we had got all kinds of new locations, new views of Ponyville. I mean, now we know Ponyville is full of back alleys. Did we know that before? No, that's new. We always saw it was this wide open area. Did we know it was surrounded by these cliffs that, baby characters could jump off of? No. Did we know that there's all these ponies riding around in carriages with missing drivers in the front that also go off these cliffs? No. Did we know that Ponyville is powered by hydroelectricity? No, we know that now, and that,
You're very happy about that, aren't you?
Now we know Ponyville is a very green city because they're powered by renewable energy.
Although one would wonder why there's a dirt path going toward a cliff.
Maybe Rainbow Dash made that path so she'd have more opportunities to be the hero. You never know.
No. That path was there for Scootaloo. Scootaloo has been doing jumps off of that path on her scooter.
This sounds to me like a Simpsons reference. For those of you who have seen that classic episode. But yeah, I think we did get to see a lot of cool things. Again, the pony retirement home. We got to see a pony construction site. We got to see
more magic.
The park. We got to see... I'm sorry, what did you say, Socksy?
More magic.
Yeah, there was some more magic happening. We got to see Darkwing Duck. So overall, like I said before, I feel like I need to repeat this just so that the fandom doesn't eat me alive. I think the weakest element of this episode was the writing. I feel strongly this was the weakest written episode to date of the series. That being said, compared to other shows, it's still superior. And in terms of animation, music, characterization, like the voice acting in this episode was just fine. references, all that was still up to snuff. I think where it fell flat was the storyline itself.
And it was still enjoyable.
I agree. And you also, another thing you got a lot of in this episode was a lot of new background ponies. You got all the new construction ponies. You got the pony in the park. You got all the ponies that were Rainbow Dash fans you hadn't seen before in the line getting her autograph. This is the first episode you finally see the balloon flying pony. The one who's in the background of the Comic-Con poster. You have never ever seen her in the show before, but she was in the Comic-Con poster with the goggles. And in this episode, you get to see her falling out of the sky because the balloon is punctured for whatever reason. And you get to hear her talk after she's rescued by Mare.
Well, and part of the nice side of it is she had her megaphone mounted on the basket.
Exactly.
Just in case, I guess.
And these are all new elements that this episode has revealed for us that we've never seen before. So, I mean, in that aspect, it was great. I love seeing all the new things. And who cannot love the rainbow robot in midair?
Oh, yeah. Put that next to Discord and you've got a rave ready to go. I did think it was hilarious that some of the construction crew had cutie marks. Most of them were tools, but one of them was just a wooden box. How'd you like to be that pony? Where your cutie mark is just a wooden crate.
And we cannot forget the most important thing, rainbow glasses.
Oh my god.
Rainbow Glasses was back in this episode again, yes.
Let's just say this. Twilight and the rest of them were criticizing Rainbow Dash, but they said it themselves. She still is pretty awesome, It's hard not to say that when you see rainbow glasses. Well, so looking at the entirety of the episode, overall, how would you guys rank this episode out of 5 Mare duels?
Well, taking everything into account, like you said, the writing, I agree with you on the writing. The writing was flat. It was predictable. It was the lowest quality we've seen for the series this far. But that being said, it still wasn't bad. It just was not reaching the bar they set for themselves, like I said before. The animation was great. The animation keeps getting better and better. You can tell as the animators get more experienced, more in tune, more familiar with this every time they do it. It gets better and better. The ponies get more and more expressive. They're more and more dynamic, more and more ability to express what they want to show. It just looks great every time. So the animation was great. You mentioned the references were great. The layout was great. The locations, the new locations you got to see were great. Overall, I would give it a 3.75. And let me explain that. I would give it a 3 for the writing, specifically 3 for the writing. And I would give it a 4.5 for everything else. So those two together, you sort of got it. Without the writing, the story's not there. Without the animation, the writing doesn't come to life. So they're really two halves of the same coin. So you have to weigh them against each other. So
don't try to muddle the issue with your fancy mathematics.
Anyways, as I was saying, they're two halves of the same coin. You have to weigh them together. So the animation being a 4.5, the writing being a 3, the total for me is a 3.75 Mare duels.
All right, and Socksy, what did you think?
Well, for the most part, I agree with 8-Track. I actually enjoyed the jokes that I found more, like Rainbow Dash saving the grass and being eaten by weeds. So I would have to rate it 4 Mare duels because I like whole numbers. And one of my favorite parts about this episode was Twilight fixing the dam with her magic. It made me happy.
Did it add a Mare duel to your rating?
It added a Mare duel to my rating. Well, it added half a Mare duel for the whole number.
Well, again, the mathematics, we've got to watch out for that. Well, in the end, as I look at this episode, I have to give it a 3 Mare duels with a half Mare duel, which I think counts as the Darkwing Duck hat. So 3 Mare duels and a hat. And it is for the reasons we talked about. The writing really in this episode fell flat. Now, that being said, like we've mentioned over and over, and I feel like I have to repeat it as well, the writing was lower than the bar they set, as you mentioned, 8-Track, but it still was very, very good for this style of cartoon. So, keeping that in mind, I felt that the writing really dragged this episode down. If the writing had been better, this may have been closer to a 5 for me. But because it was so predictable, that really, in some points, and it's kind of unfair to the animation staff and to the musical staff of the show, but it kind of dragged down the entire experience. That being said, the references were great. The action sequences were a lot of fun. The characterization was great. The acting was great. I think if I had to choose a favorite moment, it would probably have to be just seeing Mare duel's costume because, again, let's get dangerous. That's all I gotta say. So in the end, I give it a 3.5 Ne'er-do-wells out of 5, just because the writing dragged it down. But if it had not been for that, it would have been much higher. Well, I think that covers everything. I'm Final Draft.
I'm 8-Track.
And I am Socksy.
And stay tuned for our interview with Nicole Oliver. Soon, oh so soon, is our interview of Nicole Oliver. But first, let's listen to A Long Way from Equestria by MandoPony.
He was different from the rest of the world. He chose the lovely every time. With a smile, he would bravely soldier on. Yeah, was that such a crime? He did not wear cynicism well. He chose the lovely every time, and they cut him down. The world cut him down. Yeah, being peaceful was his crime. And I don't understand the way we behave. Yeah, this world of ours, this world we live in, we're a long way from Equestria. We're a long, long way. We're a long way from Equestria. Long, long way. She dared to love everybody. Yeah, she was nothing but kind. And the world told her she was wrong. Yeah, there must be something wrong with her mind. And she was just a child amongst thieves. Just a child looking for love. Yeah, all the grown-ups in the world told her she was wrong to believe in something we're all dreaming of. And I don't understand the wicked things we do in this world of ours, this world we live in. We're a long way from Equestria. We're a long, long way. We're a long way from Equestria. We're a long, long way. And I will never give up the fight. I will never surrender to the hate. And no, this world ain't perfect at all, but the world is just what we create. So let's make love and let's make friends. Oh, let's take time to make amends. Let's make the world more like Equestria. Equestria. We're a long way from Equestria. We're a long, long way. Long way from Equestria. Long, long way. Long, long way.
Okay, we're back. I'm Final Draft, and I'm here with...
Crescendo?
And today we have a very special guest, a very honored guest, Nicole Oliver. Welcome.
Hello.
First of all, I just want to thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is great.
And I just wanted to ask you about how you began your work with My Little Pony.
Oh, my goodness me. How I began. Well, probably about 2 or 3 years ago now, I first got wind of them doing this show, and I went out and put some voices down, and here we are. It's really kind of how it all just kind of fell into place. But like any actor, you audition for things, and unless you're Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt, and then they offer you things, right? But you go out there and you audition for things, and I guess the voice that I presented them with made them think of what they had in mind for Princess Celestia, and here we are.
Did you have specific characters that you were expecting to be cast for?
Well, I actually read for almost all the ponies. I think I laid down auditions for Princess Celestia, for Rarity, and for Rainbow Dash. So most of us audition for at least 4 or 5 of the main characters. It's really rare to have any show, let alone a cartoon show, that's so female dominant.
That's definitely true.
So to have a chance to be able to go in and really strut your stuff and show your range is one that when it comes along, you grab it.
So was there any character in particular you were hoping to get?
Oh, come on. Princess Celestia is pretty great. Every girl wants to be a princess. At least I did when I grew up. So
I can't blame you.
yeah, I thought it'd be fun. But I mean, she's just My Little Pony's been around for a very long time and has touched many generations of children and adults, and I have to say I really love the animation choices they've made with this version. I just think the artwork's stunning. So the idea of being a white unicorn with furling wings was quite delightful, so I thought, let's go for that one.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you liked certain elements of the animation. Were there any specific elements that you're thinking of when you say that?
I just I'm not really, I'm not an art student, so I couldn't break it down for you, but I just liked the way it looked. It looked different, it looked fresh than what was out there, or at least, the shows I've been working on, or the shows, I have 2 young kids, so the shows that they watch. It looked a little different to me, and it looked creatively and artistically like a very fresh idea, like I've said, and something that would be cool to be a part of.
When you were auditioning for the role, did they show you then a clip of the animation? So did you get a sense of what it was going to look like before you started recording, or did you see it afterwards?
I saw the finished animation afterwards. I mean, there were concept drawings and there was ideas, but really there wasn't a lot of images to go off of when we were first just trying to find the voice. It was more descriptors, more adjectives that were given to us about a feeling that they were after for a character, and you would try to embrace that in your portrayal and your voice characterization. So, I mean, I didn't really see the finished animation until a little while ago when the first season started airing. So it was a surprise, as much a surprise to me probably as it was to all the fans.
I think it definitely is one of the major elements that drew a lot more fans from a broader base into the show. But when you were coming up with the character of Celestia, did the writers give you, say, a written description of what they were looking for in the character, or was that something you developed on your own?
A little of both. I mean, they always have an idea of what they're looking for. So she's regal, obviously. Everyone wants to be her friend. She's quick with advice without making people feel silly for not knowing the answers. She kind of walks that fine line of being Mary Poppins, I think, without being too Mary Poppins, if that makes any sense. And so there was those ideas of, regalness, of being a princess, of sharing information, of welcoming, of nurturing. But then it was, I guess, whatever else I put on top of it, whether it's a sense of humor or an extra warmth, that I guess when they heard it, they went, oh, we want her. We like that version of it. So when we all go in as actors to audition for a part, you have descriptors. Sometimes they'll say we want her to sound like, I'll say Angelina Jolie again, because often they use her as a reference. We like her to sound like that, or we want her to sound like, Bart Simpson, or we want that. Like they'll give you a bunch of pop culture references to give you an idea of sort of what they're thinking of. But I've come to kind of look at those, take those in for a second, and then throw them away and just kind of do what my gut instinct tells me.
Well, okay, so I've got to ask then, what pop culture references did they give you for Celestia?
There was really, for her, there wasn't really any, besides the fact of royalty, regal, the leader, the one everyone looks up to. There wasn't really any kind of that I can remember. Like, she's certainly not Reese Witherspoon. You know what I mean? But so there really wasn't anything like that, flashing back on 3 years ago, that, we want her to be like Helen Mirren and the Queen or anything like that. It wasn't any of that.
That would be a bit reserved for Celestia, I think.
And that would be a little outside.
A little too British, maybe.
A little too British. Yeah, more the qualities of the embodying what the show is about. So loyalty and friendship and confidence in yourself and a willingness to help others and to be a good friend. So somebody a tone that would embody all of that. Not really a small order at all.
So how much of your own character, well, not your character, but your own personality, would you say you put into Celestia?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's me. It's my voice. It's not far off from my everyday speaking voice. So, it's not, there's some character voices that are quite far away from who I am and how I sound on an everyday basis. She's a little crisper, a little warmer, a little gooier, I like to say, than I am. She's a lot more placid than I am, a lot more calm and in control than I am. But there's certainly a big maternal side, which I am a mother now, but I've always kind of had that part of my personality. I've always liked to nurture others and take care of others. So I think that's probably something we have in common.
And what would you say the differences are between when you voice for Cyril and Princess Celestia?
Oh, Cyril is much more hyper, much more high energy without it feeling like work. And, whereas Celestia is very calm and relaxed without it feeling like she's dead. There's a real kind of, their energies are both very alive, but one's a little bit more, maybe on caffeine than the other, for lack of a better description.
I definitely have had my share of teachers who are certainly on their caffeine.
I know the feeling.
It's like the teacher that everyone always happy all the time and you're going to get everything done and it's here we go. And no matter if there's 30 kids screaming and pulling your hair and things are spilt everywhere, it's still a great, great day, So Cheerily is very much like her name. She's cheery and there's very little, it would take a lot for that cheery facade to crack.
When you were developing both of the characters, you've got a lengthy resume in voice acting. Mm-hmm. Did you find that your personal freedom to, put yourself into the characters was a little bit looser, less strict than in other shows you've worked on?
I think so. They really wanted to hear what you would bring to the table, and they were very supportive of it. And, we work with a great voice director, and they'll tweak things a little bit this way or a little bit that way. But I just think I've been doing this for over 20 years now, so it's a wonderful way to make a living. I feel very blessed to be able to do it. And I get excited. I don't know if I necessarily get nervous anymore, but I get excited. And it always has felt like a collaborative process for me. So, and it's certainly no different on this show.
Yeah, definitely. Any kind of recording like that has to be collaborative in a lot of ways. When you were recording the show, are you recording with the other actors and actresses in the same room, or are you recording your parts separately?
For the most part, we're all together, and that's one of the joys of voice acting. It's so much fun to have a room full of actors just all playing off each other's energy. It's a blast. It's exactly what you might think it would be. So.
Well, is that unusual for voice acting? I know that a lot of other shows that I've looked into the backgrounds of, they record their parts separately.
Well, for the most part, I think, especially when you're dealing with an ensemble show, when you have the main girls, so Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy and Rarity, you'd like the energy of having everybody in the room to get that sense of camaraderie. Yeah, if everyone's schedule permits, then I think it would be ideal for everyone to be in the room at the same time. Sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes I record my things separately if I'm working on other projects and I can't be in the studio for when they have a scheduled record. Then I may have to come in another time or pick up my lines at another session on my own. I certainly prefer working with the actors. It's a lot of fun.
Well, so going back to your characterization, do they have any future roles planned for you in the show? Are there going to be any new characters that you might be voicing?
Maybe there's always, I can't really say.
Fair enough.
Hasbro's really great. They're really great with there are new characters to at least letting us give it a shot. They'd like to see, maybe what we can bring to the table. So the possibility is always available. But then that said as well, if you've got a really identifiable voice, sometimes they just want to keep it separate. So maybe. I hope so. You never know. Could be happening. Who knows? How's that for a really vague answer?
You know what? I think the fans are going to eat it up either way. We talked to Michelle Krieber last week, and she mentioned that for season 3, she's been recording a lot of songs. And I noticed that in season 1 and so far in season 2, there haven't been any songs where Celestia or Cyril are singing.
Mhm.
Are you going to get a chance to sing coming up?
I hope so. I've been talking to the composer about that, and I would love to do that if it's makes sense to them. I have sung, I do sing, so it wouldn't be that big a stretch. But nothing quite yet. But you never know. There's been rumors, so we'll have to wait and see. Wait and see.
Well, okay, so in terms of recording the episodes, or at least the ones you can talk
Mhm.
about, were there any specific episodes that were especially fun for you to record or especially fun to work on?
Oh my goodness. See, I don't know how far you have seen. I need to be careful here. My vague answer without giving anything away is yes, there are some upcoming episodes that are quite dramatic and fantastic and fantastical, and they were great fun to do, and especially because it was quite a big cast and most of us were all there for the recording, so it was a really great creative experience. So yes, and there's a cheerily episode that I'm quite fond of, but I don't think I can talk to you about it yet. And so yeah,
Such a shame.
there's quite a few things that maybe by January or February, we'll see how it happens in the new year. But there are quite a few. The writing is great for the show. The scripting is great, and they're really smart and solid about how they write their episodes, or when they do choose to maybe link an episode or two. So, which I know they've done usually at the beginning of each season, right? About kind of a two-parter episode. Yeah. So the writers are very clever, and it's well thought out in advance, kind of where everybody's going and what's happening. So I don't get let in on where I'm going, or any of the other characters, or what our arcs are. So sometimes for me, when I get a script, it's as much a surprise for me as it would be for the viewer the first time they see it. So yeah, there's some fun things coming up, and there's some fantastical, very fairy tale moments coming up. So that's great.
Certainly sounds fun. I can't speak for everyone, but I can say I'm looking forward to the Charlie episode.
You can speak for me.
Recently, within the past few months, the Discord episode was released, and I do have to ask, what was it like recording with John Delancey?
Well, John wasn't there when we recorded, so that would be an example of us doing it at different times. So I can't comment on that, although I wish we could have recorded at the same time. It would have been great. But it's a great episode. It's quite dark, actually, but I think the messaging behind it is important.
So which elements exactly of the episode would you say you enjoyed?
Oh, goodness me. You're hurting my brain.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. I haven't we recorded that. Oh, goodness me. How long ago? Probably a year ago. So sometimes if you look at a script, and if you see your name repeated, like page after page after page, because you've got massive speeches, sometimes for some actors that brings on heavy sweats and heavy breathing and fear and palpitations of the heart. For me, I love that. I love when Celestia gets to go on a once upon a time and tell you about a story, and then bring it into the future, and it becomes all dramatic and all kind of almost like she's preaching from on high sometimes, and I really enjoyed that part of those episodes of when she gets to kind of bring everybody up to the present about why things are happening. This is what happened, and this is why it's so terrible danger, and it propels the rest of the action for the rest of the episode. So there's a couple of episodes, those two in particular, where I had pages and pages and pages of a story that I had to try and make some sense of, and I, as an actor, love that. That was great fun. And from visually looking at it, I mean, I don't know. It's just for me, that's a real fantastical fairy tale episode, like an example of a fairy tale episode for me.
It seemed to me that when I was watching that episode, Celestia gets a much broader range of emotions.
Yeah.
She's not just lecturing Twilight. She's also reacting to Discord. She's showing relief. I can imagine that must have been fun to record, because it really seemed like the first episode, or at least the first episode released, where you get to explore that range.
Yeah, well, she's not all perfect all the time, right? She's not in control of everything all the time. I think you start to see a little bit of the humanness underneath the regality, which is what people connect with. So, yes, as opposed to always being right all the time, it's very nice to do other things too, right?
I don't know. Personally, I would be okay with being right all the time, but
Oh,
I'm
it's
certainly
boring.
not.
It's boring.
Speaking of being right all the time, I have to ask this question. You have two sons, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
When you have to, let's say, put them in their place, do you ever use the Royal Celestia tone with them?
Yes, yes, I'm guilty of that, yes. But the funny thing with my kids is, everyone says, oh, it must be so great for them when you read stories to them. And yeah, they kind of like it, but they also have said to me sometimes, oh, Mom, just read it in your real voice. So I think the magic of it all is quite lost on them. They kind of think, yeah, whatever. But yes, I do use the regal tone and probably some not so regal words at times, but they're pretty good boys, so I don't have to do that too often.
Do they watch the show, or do you watch the show when it's released?
Do they watch the show? No, because they are boys who are very much into. They're 6 and 8, so they're not quite at the point where they'd appreciate it for other things. It's ponies, and all they know is all the girls in their class have the ponies. And they all think it's really cool that their mom is Princess Celestia, and they're just really bored of it all. So that's kind of my children are a little jaded when it comes to that. But they have watched a lot of things I do, and yeah, if it's on, would they watch it? Probably to see my stuff, and then maybe will depend what the episode about. Maybe with the one with the Discord, they'd probably watch that because it was kind of dark and frightening and stuff. So, but no, they're not. They're not My Little Pony. They're not mini bronies, but there's always time.
Well, okay, so bringing up the brony subject then, I gotta ask, what's your general reaction to the fandom? I mean, it's obviously an unexpected market. Mm-hmm. What's your reaction to this whole internet phenomenon?
I just think it's amazing. I mean, it's not my place to sit or judge. I mean, the name is quite catchy, and I love that there's a wide range of fans. And people of all ages that can watch something and gain something from it, or that it would inspire them to create pieces of art. I've seen some of the art that's out there and the stories that are written and the way it's inspired people to write plays or create things online. I mean, that's fantastic. The idea that something that I've been blessed to be a part of can allow other people an opportunity to express themselves artistically and to find some joy and happiness is a wonderful gift, and I think it's great.
Oh, some of the art is truly beautiful. So where have you been seeing these pieces of art and such?
Well, I get some art sent to me through my publicist, and I'm going to be doing a convention in New York in January. So I've been getting some a brony convention in New York in January. So I've been getting some art sent to me, some links sent to me, and also I've just been going online myself and seeing what's out there, because I just think it's amazing that I saw one Princess Celestia that was made from strips of paper. It was just beautiful. The amount of time and dedication and effort that took. I just think that's great. I'm a big fan of art. Like, from my kids are in art class, they paint. I love to draw. Obviously I'm an artistic person for what I do for a living, and I just think it's great that people can find inspiration.
And you're talking about the BronyCon convention, right?
Yes.
The what in New York in January?
Yeah.
Okay, just clarifying that for the fans.
Yes, the Brony one in New York. The BronyCon.
Whilst we're on the topic of the fandom, have you ever gotten fan mail in the form of Dear Princess Celestia?
Yes, I have. And it's great. Who doesn't want to be called a princess? It's really, I've received fan mail for things I've done over the past 20 years from all over the world. And it's humbling and it's inspiring, and it's just it's a really lovely position to be in, that somebody saw something you did or heard something you did and it inspired them enough that they felt a need to write or reach out and just say, hey, I think what you're doing is great, and this is how it's inspired me. I mean, it's much like, I believe in mentoring very much. Me, Nicole, as a person, I've had a couple of mentors in my life that have really changed my path or have been available to provide me in moments when maybe my confidence wasn't so high to give me a little boost. And so I really believe in mentoring myself and passing along and volunteering and helping out the next generation as well. And so, I mean, that's something I think Princess Celestia and I also have in common. She's a mentor, obviously. And I just think it's so important. So, yeah.
Well, so in what ways have you been, working, mentoring in that sense? Are there specific programs you've been working with, or are there just in general?
Well, I sit on the board of my children's soccer club. I'm responsible for 600 kids. I'm 300 directly. I help organize that they get out and play soccer every week. On the advisory council at my kids' school. On Friday, I'm guest of honor for A Loving Spoonful, which is a charity in Vancouver that works with families with AIDS. I've worked with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, which is a very dear charity for me. And I also have I've mentored some young actors and actresses in town who, I've let them know I'm here for if they want to call or they need someone to talk to. And then there's just my niece, and you can find opportunities to mentor. You don't have to be old to mentor someone. You can be in your 20s and mentor someone. They're all around you. You just have to, when somebody says, hey, can you help me? It's a matter of acknowledging that they've had the courage to ask for help and to grant yourself a pat on the back to have the courage to offer it.
Well, like you mentioned, both Celestia and Shirley in the show, that is, they are mentors to the ponies. You mentioned that there were some specific people in your past that were real mentors to you. Do you draw upon your memories of them to kind of create the characters?
I don't necessarily create the characters, but I'd certainly draw on my memories of them to give me a little bit of strength at times when maybe, the business is a tough business that I've chosen to be a part of. It's a very rewarding business when it's wonderful, but it's very tough and it's full of lots of judgment. And I did a movie a long time ago with an actress named Ava Marie Saint, who was in some Alfred Hitchcock movies way back in the day. North by Northwest.
Oh, wow.
If you remember. Mm-hmm.
I've heard of that, yes.
Yes. Well, at any rate, she ended up, her story, I don't know if I have time to tell it, but it stuck with me all these years because what she was passing along was how she was doing a play off Broadway with a young man by the name of Hank, or Henry Fonda, who's no longer with us, but quite then, historical and in terms of theater and film.
Quite a name.
Jane Fonda's dead. And she was doing a play off Broadway, and the play was being moved to Broadway, and the producers came to her and said, we're replacing you with Marlon Brando's sister, I think it was, because you just don't have a big enough name. And to that point, her parents had hung a gold star on her door, and because they were so proud of her, and all she could think about as she was taking the train home was how she was going to tell her parents that they had to take the star off the door. And her lesson from all that is it didn't matter. That star should always stay on that door because it's no one else's business about whether that star comes off the door. In other words, who you are, what you have to offer is from you. No one can change that. No matter what they say, no one can change that. So that's something that I've always kept with me. And her story's a little deeper than that, but that's the essence of it. So I guess, I'm a mom now and I like to mentor, and I've had people who have been really wonderful in my life, and I'm playing a character who kind of embodies some of that. So it's a lovely circle.
Yeah. Going back to your history in voice acting, given your lengthy resume, I'm wondering whether you've ever had a point in your career where you've gotten to choose some of the characters that you voiced. And if so, did you kind of look for that sort of added spark to it then? That sort of, I'm trying to find the word for it, that sort of impact that apparently, these characters, reflect for you.
I know the sort of characters I would like to play, maybe not necessarily the characters, because these kind of iconic characters like My Little Pony, they don't come along quite often. But I will say that when I hear of a project, for example, He-Man comes to mind, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I heard about that project, and I heard they were looking for the voice of the sorceress. And I remembered watching that cartoon, and I thought that would be a really cool part. And so I worked hard to get that, and I had to convince a casting director to see me, and I ended up booking it. And that was a trip to do that. I enjoyed it because it also had a personal meaning for me. So that's an example, I guess, of a character where I heard about something and I certainly pursued it.
In a previous interview, you mentioned that you really liked Key the Metal Idol as perhaps your favorite speaking role from your days of anime.
Mm-hmm.
What about that really drew you in? What did you like about it?
Well, just the challenge of playing basically it's like, the Tin Man, right, from Wizard of Oz, that's trying to become the human with a heart. And so the idea of playing a character that wants to be human, that goes through all these experiences, but you can't, how do you portray that? How, in a voice where you can't be humanistic, to convey human emotions and feelings and experiences? So for me as a performer, I loved that challenge. And so that's why that show's always stuck with me and why I really enjoyed it, because I really had to think about what I was doing. It was quite cerebral. Like, how do you get that across? How do you not just make her sound like a robot? How do you give some depth and meaning to something, to a character that, as was written, is so pivotal kind of for humankind, right? The story is, it's quite a big story. All these kind of math.
Your description of the character, that attempt to be human or really looking for that human freedom, reminds me a lot of another character you portrayed, which was Kaguya in the Inuyasha movie. And she's, Kaguya as a character is trying to gain her freedom. She's a villain, but in a lot of ways she's a sympathetic villain because she's bound to Naraku. And I may be delving a little bit too much into anime, but yeah, I mean, did you find when you were voicing her that you were kind of noticing some of those similarities as well?
I think what they all have in common is I like to say, if you play a bad person, they're never bad, they're just misunderstood. And so when you have a chance to play a character that's complex, that's, not just the really good girl that everybody likes and it's so simple. I mean, that's funny, or it can be, but it's not really interesting. And what I like, especially as I'm moving on through life, is I like characters that are interesting, that are different, that are struggling with their challenges, that aren't always so easily getting things, that have to work hard, or who don't always have the answer right at their fingertips. And I think any sort of a character that is so palpably and clearly wearing their kind of challenges on their sleeves, that's just so much more delightful to mess around with, as an actor. As a person, maybe not so much, but as an actor, yes.
No. I think it's definitely true, and it's definitely odd for a children's show to have a character with that kind of depth.
Yeah, I mean, there's different levels of children's shows. There's shows that are, there's, if you look back at the Grimm's fairy tales, or those, those are stories that had a lesson behind them and a meaning, and there are some stories that choose animation as the way to tell the story, but the story is still really important, right? And if I can be a part of those sort of projects, then that's where, then as a performer, as a person, I kind of get my heart rate going and my jazz up, because it's fun. It's not just kind of showing up, and although just showing up and playing is really cool too, but I like being able to do both. Choice is great. Choice is a wonderful gift.
Since we just touched on the topic of anime, you've also done a dubbing of the live-action movie for Death Note.
Oh, yeah.
Was it any different to dub something for live action rather than animated?
Well, no, I do quite a lot of work on camera, so it's quite, as part of the process of making a movie, you're often brought into the studio afterwards to fix your lines of dialogue that were affected because a plane flew overhead, or the monitor wasn't turned on properly, or mic wasn't turned on, or kept rubbing against material. There's a bunch of reasons why you may have to replace your own dialogue. So I've done that quite frequently. So for me, it wasn't a big stretch. However, it is different to do ADR for animation, or ADR for real life people, because the energy is different. And the challenge with doing, like I did for Death Note, was really trying to be in that position and to honor the subtleties of live action over maybe the not so subtleties of anime.
Well, and actually being on screen, and you've definitely been on screen a lot, I imagine that the acting has to be different because you're also visually portraying the emotions as opposed to just vocally portraying them. Did you start in voice acting then, or did you actually go into screen or theater acting first?
No, I started in theater, so I went to York University in Toronto, and I got my degree in theater, and I actually studied in Oxford.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, theater, Shakespeare, and I worked with Jeremy Irons, and he was one of my instructors, and so I started quite classically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was how I began, and I was a dancer before that. I was a ballet dancer. I was dancing from the age of 3 on, and kind of blew my knee out when I was younger. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try acting, and that's kind of how I stumbled and did the high school play, and said, "No, Mom, I'm not going to law school," and Mom and Dad, I'm going to go to theater school. So that was fun. Actually, no, they were really great and supportive. But I started on camera and with theater and with all the and television, and then from that I started doing some voiceover for products on television, radio, etc. And then one of the first cartoons I did was the Silver Surfer in Toronto. I had a spot on that, and I thought, oh, this is really great. I can show up in my sweatpants, and it doesn't matter what I look like, and wow. And so I really loved it, and I just kind of kept pursuing all paths. I've had my fingers in a lot of pies for many years, and I kind of like it that way.
I think that's how most people would enjoy turning up to work. So you started in theatre.
Mm-hmm.
Did you expect to go into TV?
Yes, I was doing a Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which was a musical.
Oh, that's a great musical.
Yeah, in a comedy tonight. Yeah, so I started that in just a theater called Theatre Aquarius outside of Toronto, and I was getting ready to audition for there's Shaw Theatre, there's Stratford, and to do all the boards and go run around. And then there was an audition for a television show called Kung Fu: The Legend Continues for Warner Brothers, which I went and auditioned for, and I got a lovely recurring role in that for 4 years. So I kind of chose to pursue the television. It was something I was always interested in, but I didn't want to limit myself. You know, like I said, I like choice. So I limit myself if I don't have to. But I definitely, it's on my to-do bucket list to go do a musical and to go do Shakespeare again.
So, Nicole, I have to ask, what is your favorite Shakespeare play? Or if you had a choice, which play would you like to star in?
Oh, my favorite Shakespeare play is, oh gosh, As You Like It's pretty great. Charlie's and Cressida is really good. Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night. Because I did do Twelfth Night. I was Olivia in Twelfth Night in my graduating year at university. So I would really love a chance to do that again.
Well, she's definitely one of those matriarch type characters in the play.
Oh, and the clothes were fabulous. So, yeah, it's always.
Well, okay. So you have some upcoming projects coming up soon. You've got a movie, I believe, on TNT.
That's right. On November 29th, I'm in Innocent. It's on TNT. Check it out. It's part of their Mystery Movie Night series that's starting. It's a sequel to Presumed Innocent, which starred Harrison Ford. It was, I think, back in the 90s, the original film. Mm-hmm. This is a sequel. It takes place 20 years later, and it stars Bill Pullman, Marcia Gay Harmon, Alfred Molina. Moi. It's great. It's quite fun. I got to play a really brassy, sassy reporter that has no fear. So that was great. And she wore a lot of Mad Men kind of suits, and she was really ballsy, so it was fun to do. Her name's Elaine Reese. And then December 19th, I have a cartoon series premiering called 1001 Nights, based on 1001 Nights. And it's by a local company in Vancouver called Big Bad Boo. And so I really like to promote homegrown stuff. But it's been the #1 show at MIP for the last 3 years. It's been on Disney Asia, and it will be on Teletoon starting December 19th. So check it out. It's fantastic. There's music. It's funny. It's very funny.
And what part do you play?
I play Shahrazad. So
Oh wow.
yes, but remind you, this is for a younger audience than perhaps the classic tale. So, but it's a great.
Okay.
It is a.
So we don't have to fear for her life this time, maybe.
Well, no, but I am a storyteller, so which is very similar to Celestia. So I think fans of My Little Pony would really enjoy the show.
Well, all right. It was great to have you with us. I'm Final Draft,
I'm Crescendo.
and Nicole Oliver is the speaking voice of Princess Celestia and Shirley on the show. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Maybe in New York in January. You never know.
Hopefully.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
That's all for this episode of EverFree Radio, but before we go, we have a few announcements. First, we have a new IRC chat. Want to pester one of us with a question? Want somewhere to complain about how long it is until the next episode? Feel like just hanging out with some awesome bronies? Click the chat and live stream tab to sign in. On that page, you can stream our music station, watch our episodes, and more. Stay tuned this upcoming week to the EverFree Pony Stream. On Wednesday, Violet Vanilla from Brony State takes the helm and spins some tunes. And on Saturday, we're excited to broadcast our first A State of Brony Pony Trance Hour setlist, picked by Thorinair and mixed by One Trick. Like the music playing right now? Yeah, it's that Thorinair. Thanks to Cyril from The Silly Show for our stream track list, general bombacity, and overall support. Be sure to check out his show. His link is posted below. Thanks to One Trick and 8-Track for their technical and musical editing. Our site is growing and growing thanks to the hours they've put in. Thank you to our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook subscribers. Your support has been amazing. Thanks to my co-hosts this week, 8-Track, Crescendo, and Socksy. Our site editor and consistency checker is Nash. Our resident artist is Skipsy, and our fanfic test subject is Moonlight. Last but most importantly, I want to personally thank Nicole Oliver for joining us this week. Our entire staff was thrilled she took the time out of her busy schedule to speak with us. Thank you again. This is Final Draft, signing off. Good night and good luck.
I know a good filly, and that's a good filly. Really good.
Nicely done.